You were just listening to New York Governor Kathy Hochul give an update on the flooding that we've been experiencing. You can finish watching that address on our website. That's mynbc5.com. But in the meantime, we want to turn now to Waterbury, where Vermont Governor Phil Scott is giving us an update. Let's listen in live.
This is en route and will be here later today. Our local teams were staged around the state yesterday and have been busy this morning. This is an all hands on deck response. We are closely coordinating with federal partners. I just got off the phone with FEMA Administrator Criswell, who offered full support from the federal government. I also spoke with Senator Sanders, who made the same offer. We have not seen rainfall like this since Irene, and in some places it will surpass even that. Before I turn it over to our experts, I want to take a moment to thank all those working incredibly hard under these challenging conditions. First responders, search and rescue, municipal office officials, VTrans crews, many of whom worked overnight throughout the weekend, the SCOC and emergency management team, and so many more. This may be just the start of what we'll see as rainfall continues and will worsen over the next several hours. As a reminder to all Vermonters, if you're in a life-threatening situation, call 911. If you can't physically see the pavement, don't drive or walk across it. And to stay informed with the most up-to-date information, sign up for Vermont Alerts at vtalert.gov. I'll now turn it over to Dan Batesy, the Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety. Dan?
Good morning. As the Governor mentioned, our State Emergency Operations Center is open, and we expect it to remain open over the next 2 days. Our primary focus is on life safety, and we have teams across the spectrum of agencies and departments, including public safety, transportation, and urban search and rescue, working on the challenges that we find in their area of expertise. We anticipate these operations will continue for the next day or so, and I want to reiterate the need for safety. As the Governor mentioned a moment ago, please do not attempt to drive through flooded waters. Be very careful and pay attention to the surroundings. If you are in a threat of high water, please evacuate. Please also pay attention to local media alerts. And again, I will encourage all to sign up for and pay attention to Vermont Alert and heed those warnings as they come. I'll also ask that as we begin to utilize generators, to please do so safely. Do not operate generators inside a building. Make sure they're properly ventilated, and be careful. We know that the damage to property and infrastructure is now unavoidable, but we can save lives with simple common sense, and we ask you to exercise that common sense. Also, please be careful about electricity. If you can, as you evacuate your buildings, shut the circuit breaker off if you can do so safely. That will help responders going on as they come to help you. Again, we'll continue these operations for the next couple days and address the challenges as they come. I'd like to turn it over now to Mike Hannon from the Urban Search and Rescue Team.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. As you all know, it's been a very busy morning and overnight for us. We have approximately 14 swiftwater rescue teams operating in the field currently. 2 of those are from the state of North Carolina, as the Governor had mentioned. We're anticipating another large urban search and rescue team with a water rescue capability to arrive at about 2 p.m. today, and they will be put into the field of operation immediately upon their arrival. We are also requesting additional resources. We've got state-to-state mutual aid requests out from the state of Michigan, who is providing us some urban search and rescue resources, and I anticipate we'll request another urban search and rescue resource out of the state of Connecticut this afternoon. To date, we've operated with these 14 teams in the hardest hit areas, which are Londonderry and Weston, in Ludlow, and all along the mountainous areas of the Green Mountains in the southern and central counties. We've rescued, with those partner agencies, approximately 19 people with boat rescues and another 25 people with evacuations. There have been some pets involved in those rescues as well. As the governor mentioned, Londonderry and Weston have been extremely hard affected by this. South Londonderry is inaccessible right now. We have a Swiftwater team in that area trying to gain access so we can continue doing welfare checks and any life safety issues that they may come across. And Weston is totally inaccessible right now, and we're working on getting an urban search and rescue team in there to conduct some operations. We're in the process of evacuating some park employees and campers from Plymouth, Vermont, at one of the state park locations. And we are also monitoring some dam conditions on the Ball Mountain Dam down in Jamaica. They are in a release mode right now, which means that some of that water, they were releasing water, which was potentially flooding Jamaica. They've stopped that release, and by doing that, it backs water back up into Londonderry. This is a normal occurrence for that dam, but we will keep an eye on it. Earlier this morning, there were concerns about a dam in Calais, Vermont, and I understand that DEC officials and members of the Calais community are monitoring that situation. Thank you. I'll turn that over to Secretary Joe Flynn from the Agency of Transportation.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning. As the governor mentioned, V-Trans crews had been out nearly around the clock since about dinner time on Friday, working in the area of Killington and Route 100 in Bridgewater from the storms that occurred on Friday. At this point, V-Trans is conducting operations which are primarily blocking roads and waiting for the water to recede so that we can understand the condition of our infrastructure. We are also trying to communicate with local communities so that if there's any assistance we can render, we're aware of that as well. I'll read through what we know currently we have for state road closures. So again, this list would not include any local town roads. The Waterbury Park and Ride off Lincoln Street is closed. Vermont 100 in Plymouth between Town Line Road and Bryn Road is closed. Vermont 14 in Williamstown and the Gulf is closed. Vermont 131 in Cavendish to Vermont 106 is closed. Vermont 12 in Bethel from Camp Brook Road to the fire department is closed. Vermont 12 in Worcester at Ledge Road is closed. Vermont 14 in Hardwick north of Cary Road is closed. Vermont 12A from 12 in Northfield to Granville is closed. Vermont 100 in Londonderry, south to the Londonderry Bridge, is closed. Vermont 11 from Vermont 30 in Winhall to 100 is closed. Vermont 103 in Shrewsbury from Lincoln Hill is closed. Vermont 140 is closed. Vermont 107 in Stockbridge from Vermont 100 to Vermont 12 in Bethel is closed. US 2 in Middlesex between Sunnybrook Road and Cross Road is closed. Vermont 58 in Orleans Village toward Brownington is reduced to 1 lane. Vermont 4 in Woodstock between Westerdale Road and Knapp Drive is closed. US 5 in Barton from Vermont 58 toward Irisburg is down to 1 lane. US 5 in Barton from the Industrial Park to 58 is closed. Vermont 155 in Mount Holly from Straight Road to Vermont 100 is closed. Vermont 16 in Barton from exit 25 to Water Street is closed. Vermont 103 in Mount Holly at Station Road is closed. Vermont 100 in Ludlow south to Village is closed. Vermont 103 in Ludlow is closed. Vermont 100 in Weston near the intersection of Route 155 is closed. US 4 in Killington near the Skyship Lodge is closed. Vermont 100 in West Bridgewater at US 4 to Farm and Wilderness Road is closed. I'm pleased to report 2 roads have reopened. Vermont 30 in Jamaica near West Hill Road South has reopened, and Vermont 30 in Winhall near Stony Hill has reopened. At this time, AOT has 3 garages that are affected by the flooding. Woodstock Garage on Route 4 is flooded, and our Londonderry and Ludlow facilities are currently isolated. Thank you.
All right, open up to questions at this time.
For those of us, since there have been so many comparisons to Irene, for those of us who weren't here for Irene, can all of you kind of paint the picture of what that looked like and how long the recovery took and what transpired?
I think we just closed out our last project this past year from Irene, so it went on for a long time afterwards. I was on with Administrator Criswell from FEMA this morning, and she asked what my biggest concern was at this point in time. And I reflected, I said, well, all of them. I mean, I have many concerns. And she said, well, you've been through this before with Irene. And I said, yeah, I was there amongst many who are up here today. But what's different for me is that Irene lasted about 24 hours. It was raining one day. It was a Sunday afternoon. And then I think it was Monday. We woke up, the sun was shining, and we went out to look at the damage. And we were able to get to work immediately. That was in a 24-hour period. This is going on, and we're getting just as much rain, if not more, and it's going on for days. And that's my concern. It's not just the initial damage, it's the wave, the second wave, and the third wave. And we're trying to anticipate that as we work, and that's what we were talking about yesterday when we listened to all the meteorologists, all the senior experts around the state, that this was going to be something much worse than expected. So to answer your question, it's going to be quite some time, but we want to make sure that we prioritize life and safety. The rest can be replaced, as we've proven with Irene. The good news is, as a result of Irene, we were able to mitigate some of the infrastructure. So we hopefully won't repeat in those areas that were affected before. We've been able to upgrade and armor some of those areas so that we don't have a repeat. So we'll see what happens, but again, I don't know, Secretary Flynn I know was there, and others who might want to add in what their thoughts were in terms of comparison with Irene and what to expect.
That project that just finished, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't. It was a bridge somewhere, I believe.
100, there was a bridge.
Route 100 bridge, yeah.
Governor, you talk about those upgrades to infrastructure, making it more resilient for storms like this. Do we have any sense of how some of those culverts, bridges, how that's held up?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're still early in this. It's still raining, and we'll see. Some of it won't be the fault of the structures themselves. It will just be the circumstances. All it takes is a couple trees going down and to block a culvert, no matter what size it is. And then it starts to impact that because it fills the culvert up with debris, or the box culvert, the bridge. It doesn't matter what it is. And then you have a problem. So again, we'll have answers to that as we work our way through this. But at this point in time, I'm sure we're going to see some of those culverts being plugged.
Can you talk more about your conversation with FEMA and what we're expecting to see from the federal government today?
They were very helpful. They are sending resources as we speak to try and assist us through this. And they are familiar with Vermont and worked with us throughout Irene. And the administrator said, just call and let us know what you need, and we'll be there.
And again, with the other states that are coming in to help, I believe it was Michigan, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and North Carolina. What kind of teams are we going to see, and what can we expect over the next 24 or 48 hours?
Yeah, I'll let Mike Cannon answer that. But, this is like a reciprocal agreement that we have with many. We've been there to assist them in their time of need, and now they're giving back. So we have these connections with North Carolina when we went to other places. So, Mike, do you want to respond any more to that?
Sure. We knew at least 48 hours ahead of time that we weren't going to have enough resources in state for this with the weather forecast that was projected from both Albany and the Burlington office. So part of my job is to try to anticipate what we're going to have for needs. We have a pretty difficult state to manage for water rescue because we can't go from east to west on a storm like this because it takes out the road systems. So all our communities that are affected are on the spine. It's difficult to get into those communities. As the governor mentioned, we have a pretty good working relationship with the state of North Carolina. It wasn't just that working relationship. This storm was forecast to hit Vermont, New York, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And as we've seen on some of the video coming out of New York, they did have a great amount of impact. We reached out to them initially for some additional water rescue resources. We were overwhelmed within a very short amount of time this morning. We had no water rescue capability for about 2 hours. All the teams were working. So part of my job is to reach out to the unaffected states and try to grab some of that resource ahead of time, knowing that all the other resources are going to be tied up. The storm was forecast to affect a wide area of the East Coast from Delaware all the way up through to Maine. So we grabbed North Carolina quickly, and we reached out to some of the other entities to see where we could get help. Again, we have worked with a lot of these teams with Michigan and North Carolina, as well as the Connecticut and New York teams, but they were both committed to their states.
Apologies if I missed this, but when will they be getting here?
Both North Carolina teams, one is from Buncombe County up in the Asheville area, and the other is a combination of Greensboro and Charlotte Fire Department. They're both on scene. They're both operating. The North Carolina, Greensboro, and Charlotte team is actively doing some rescues up in Plymouth, and the other team's on the Manchester side of the mountain with one of our components from our USAR team doing some searching over there. The Massachusetts federal team is a 35 to 45 person team. They'll be in at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and they bring a large water rescue component as well as a large search component to go into some of these communities later on and do some welfare checks and searching. And we know that's going to go on for several days from our past history with Hurricane Irene.
And you mentioned Irene there. Just what did you guys learn from that situation that you're maybe doing differently this time, or is it a pretty similar process?
It is. So in 2011, we had 4 Swiftwater teams in the state that we partner and enter into written agreements with Vermont Emergency Management. We're up to 11 or 12 now, so we've tripled the capability. But again, on a storm of this magnitude or Irene, you're never going to have enough resources to deal with these mountain communities that are affected with 5 to 8 inches of rain in a very short amount of time. So it's really difficult in a water rescue world to try to figure out where to put these resources because the Green Mountains run the length of the state, and the Weather Service had forecasted large amounts of rain from Brattleboro all the way up through to Johnson. So it's just difficult to move that limited resource around.
You mentioned Ludlow and a number of other places that got hit the hardest. Were you guys already aware that they might be hit the hardest, or was that kind of you had to respond quickly to those things?
We had teams close to Ludlow. We had teams very close to Londonderry. We received no requests from the local entities. The teams had worked their way up there from some other calls that we had, and then when they reached there, they realized that the place was inundated, and at that point, the local community asked for their assistance, and we sent more resources in there. The Londonderry Weston area, at one time we had 5 Swiftwater teams working that area with a total commitment of about 45 water rescue professionals up there. So again, it takes time to get up there. As the governor and the secretary had mentioned, the road systems are not doing us any favors right now.
Can you just kind of shed some light in terms of you guys knew the storm was coming, just the planning of where to send your teams, like what went into that decision making?
We know historically where the communities get hit, so anything along the spine is high priority for us. We work well with the Agency of Transportation and Emergency Management as far as the historical data. We know what roads are going to be affected. We know how we're going to be able to get in. But as the governor said, this is a long-term event, not like Irene. Irene happened and it was over within 12 hours. This is going to particularly be difficult for us with the long rain event that we're going to experience. So I can't give you I could tell you that we had the teams all pre-staged. Everybody was in the right location. And a lot of it is up to the local communities to notify the state EOC if they want the help. And some of them are overwhelmed immediately and they don't have the opportunity to reach out. So we try to be as proactive as we can with them to offer the resources up. And they've all been welcoming it very well today.
You mentioned dozens of evacuations. Have we heard of any fatalities yet today?
We have one unconfirmed report of a person that was swept away in Londonderry, but we have not been able to verify that.
What time did that report come in?
Around 7:30 this morning, and we had two Swiftwater teams there at that time. They took the initial report, so I don't know. Again, we haven't been able to verify that, and we haven't received any reports of anyone missing in that area. But again, it's a hard-hit area. We still haven't done as good a job as we can to get in there to search that area because it's just so difficult to get there right now.
Is the state working with local ATV clubs like they were back during Irene? Are you in communication with any of those folks?
All our teams have capability to get into these assets or to get into these communities, so we just bring our own product with us.
I've never been in this situation where I've had to evacuate my home like this. Can you kind of paint the picture? I'm sure it's really difficult for people to leave their homes.
It is, and I think it's always, in my world, the vulnerable people that don't want to leave their home, either that they've lived there all their life, they're elderly, they might have some medical health issues, or they might not have the money to go to a hotel. We've traveled out of state to North Carolina twice and for Hurricane Florence and Dorian, and to Texas for Hurricane Harvey. And all our evacuation were mainly vulnerable populations that did not want to leave. So that, I think, is what we're seeing here as well. I do know that one of the groups that, there's two rescues going on or evacuations right now, one in Stockbridge. That's a vulnerable group there. And there was another evacuation taking place somewhere in the Andover region, again, another vulnerable group. So those are the types of people or population that we deal with, and we try to pre-plan as best we can, knowing where some of these places are.
Is there any financial relief available for those who might not be able to afford to evacuate?
I can't answer that question. Maybe the Deputy Commissioner can, or...
Yeah, so evacuation is a significant challenge for anyone, but particularly the vulnerable population. We want them to know that there are resources out there. They can reach out to Vermont 211 for assistance, and we can work with the Red Cross. We can work with local community shelters to find them space. Our teams are also actively attempting to assist folks that are unable to evacuate themselves, people with disabilities, things like that. So for sure, Vermont 211 if there's a need, and we'll do our best to keep monitoring those situations through the local municipalities.
How about folks who depend on medication, let's say medication? I'm thinking insulin that needs to be refrigerated. Is there any aid that they aren't able to grab it or not able to stay cool?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the challenges of this kind of a situation are somewhat immeasurable. There's always going to be the element that we haven't thought of yet. I think that in that kind of an event, they can always call 911. They can always reach out to their local emergency medical services. They can certainly call Vermont 211, and we can coordinate an appropriate response.
Governor, were you going to say?
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. Reflecting on Irene, I remember I was one of the first officials to get to Bridgewater at that point in time, and I was always so impressed with the local community and how they have, it's not just the state response here, it's the local response. And they had a checkpoint all set up. They had someone who needed insulin. They had someone who was impacted medically, and they were taking care of it themselves. They were shut off from the entire world, but they were taking care of their neighbors. And so they work through and they prepare for this, and they have local teams, emergency management teams as well.
Have you thought about deploying the National Guard? Or
We have, that was part of the emergency order yesterday, so they are in some respects activated and on notice. We don't know what we'll need them for at this point, but they are ready, willing, and able.
And have you spoken with the White House at all today?
I'm sorry?
Have you spoken with the White House today?
Well, I did through, we did notify the White House, who offered us speaking to Administrator Griswold, and so we've made that connection, and so they are well aware of our situation.
how about clean water infrastructure, drinking water?
Well, again, we will, I remember this from Irene as well. It wasn't too far from here. Moortown needed water, and we will disperse that as needed. At this point in time, we haven't heard of the need. The municipal water is working as well as wells, but that is a situation that will evolve.
How about the homeless population? Are there resources for them?
Again, same situation, 211. We're there for everyone. So anyone who needs our help, call 211 and we will be there to assist.
The folks who have been evacuated from campsites, do you happen to know how many were by chance experiencing homelessness?
We don't know. I don't know that at this point in time, but there haven't been that many evacuations of campgrounds at this point. Now, that doesn't mean there's not going to be, but at this point, the only one we're aware of, I think, is Plymouth, but we'll see. I'm not aware of any others, but we're monitoring that.
Do you think, it's a little early, but do you anticipate seeking a federal disaster declaration?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll meet the threshold. We're doing the paperwork as we speak.
What about farmers? Have you heard from farmers?
We have, as part of the SEOC, we have members from every area, and there is a member from agriculture, the Agency of Agriculture, and there are some concerns in terms of livestock and pets and so forth. So we are, again, monitoring that and doing all we can to assist in that area.
I think this is a question for, is it Mike from the Search and Rescue? In the event that people aren't able to leave their homes or don't want to leave their homes, is there a situation where Swiftwater is like delivering food and water to people? Is that a situation that comes up?
Yes, and I think as we go forward, as I mentioned, bringing in additional search and rescue assets from outside the state to bolster what we have. Our next step is to try to identify the areas that we can't get into and send as many personnel into those areas. They'll do a wide area search. We'll start to really kind of put the boots on the ground, so to speak, once the water settles down and we can get in. And then we'll be able to keep track of that. And if we need to do that, then yes, we will do that. We've got the capability to provide that to the folks.
For people who want to help their neighbors, do you have any advice on how to safely do that? I don't know, people have their own canoes and kayaks.
Well, number one, I would just say that you need to listen to the National Weather Service and the local emergency management announcements as far as evacuation and the local officials with evacuations. We are aware that Northfield and some other communities are trying to do a voluntary evacuation because they've experienced issues similar with Hurricane or with Tropical Storm Irene. So I would just say that, heed the warnings and the recommendations from state and local officials, and if they tell you to evac or they ask you to evacuate, you should take those warnings and do that. We are quite capable at this time right now to do evacuations with the teams that we have for the folks that you have mentioned that might need it. And we have personnel and locations that we can take those people if the need arises.
Governor, back to the question of people experiencing homelessness, and you mentioned calling 211, but what if they don't have a cell phone, or if their cell phone isn't charged, or?
Yeah, I'm sure they can get in touch some way. They seem to be, many do have cell phones. And that's the wonderful thing about Vermont. We're always willing to help one another in time of need. And whether there was a question Calvin had before about the ATVs, they've reached out, VASA has reached out. They're willing to help in any way they can. Same in this situation. Just ask for help, and we'll assist. All right. Thank you all very much.